Hey, how we doing? Divine Rising. Whatever time it is for you. Got a little sage going. Whatever time it is for you, because time just overlaps on a quantum level. So, this message that I have for you today, it's speaking about how healing from trauma or hitting rock bottom, whatever that may be for you, because it can be many things. But hitting rock bottom, you could go to prison, you could just be getting out of prison, you could lose a family member, you could have your car break down, you could have no money in your bank account, things like that. Or hitting rock bottom can lead to everlasting growth, spiritually and physically. I'm gonna set that sage down. But I have a list of, here's my notes for today. I have a list of traumas that I wrote down, speaking about my ego's journey through what I've been through. It's not everything I've been through, but it's a pretty good range. I have four instances that I've been through. And I'll talk about more on a later date, but what I'm covering is a pretty general range. You feel me? And after I speak about these traumas, I'm going to talk about I'm still getting up. I'm still opening my throat chakra. I'm still gaining that clarity through that. Where I am now and what helped my mind transcend those veils of consciousness. And I have this example written down on here. And it's just something super simple right there with the water right here. And basically what I wrote down is when you are speaking for myself, when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling like, damn, I'm really, how can I re-explain this? When you don't question what you've been through, when you don't honestly, just when you're not being yourself and you're comfortable with doing what you've been told, doing what your ego has been taught, eating fast food, or just being comfortable in misery, gossiping, projecting your feelings onto others, what else? Acting out on people, and really just allowing your energy to be harvested by astral entities, other people, shapeshifters, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, I get into that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 main ideas for that one. But going into my traumas, I do van life, right? And if you go on my page, you'll see my van, but it's me and my girls, me and my wife's van. Before we had this van, right? Before we had this van now, and I'm so grateful and appreciative that we've been able to manifest this dream into our reality, this dream into our dream, basically, this goal into our dream, just by constantly going on that. But before this van, we had like the most, it was not a good van. That's like simply put. It was not a good van. We got lied to about the miles. It was not in good condition. Broke down on us a couple times. Spent over $1,000 in repairs on that. And it was a big lesson for myself. We hadn't gotten into actually putting furniture into the van. And that's funny because I just seen a van pass by that was close to the same model. But anyways, but we had put sound deadening in there. We were putting insulation in there. We put an air roof fan in there, and we were slowly building through what we were building. But I remember this instance to where I was taking my girl home in that van from my mom's house when I had stayed there. But we were going back to her house, and then we came back. But before we left, the oil gauge was like going like crazy. And I was questioning myself, like, why is this doing that? But you know what I'm saying? This van has already so many other issues that I just overlooked it. I did. I should have gone outside and checked. But I did momentarily, but I didn't see anything. I didn't feel anything wrong with the motor or anything. So I was like, all right, well, let me just go. And so I did. But when I came back to the house, there was a huge oil spill in the driveway, a huge oil spill. And I was leaking oil all the way from my house to her house and back. And I don't know how the van was still running. It was driving fine. I didn't have any issues with it. But yeah, after that instant, that's when I knew. That's when me and my girl knew that we had to get rid of that van. We had to sell that van off. And we had bought that for $3,000, and I had sold my previous car to get that van. And I went on the cheaper side with that, and you know, you reap what you sow, right? So I put $3,000 into this van. More than that, that was just the buying price, or it was like $2,800 that I bought it for. But I definitely learned my lesson with that. Not saying that you can't get a good vehicle at that price, but the vehicle that I got was just a piece of shit, and that's that, right? That's just being honest with yourself and not being prideful in my mistakes, because my mistakes that I go through are just learning experiences to get me to where I want to be. So I'm not going to be prideful that I lost money on this project or I lost money on this business, because I'm learning through experiencing and through learning my own lessons that I have to go through. Because I told myself that I told Justin that I was going to go through these experiences to become the observational being that I wanted to be through Justin. You know? And at that moment that I seen that oil spill, that felt like everything I had worked for this van with me and my girl just meant nothing. And it felt like it was all for nothing. Now, I knew it wasn't all for nothing, but you put all this time and this money into something for it not to work out, you know, it hurt. That shit hurts. But I also knew, and this goes into, I'll get into this later, and I'll connect this right now with this. You know, I'm gonna just say it now and connect it, because it would make more sense to do that. People looking at shit. So going on to the next main idea, where I am now, what helped my mind transcend those veils. So about our first van, really what allowed me to be stable within my goals and my visions, and allowing my spirit to, not allowing my spirit, but being aligned with my spirit in the sense that I'm showing myself what I can be if I heal from this. Foresight, future visions, right? having foresight into what I could be presently if I kept pushing forward, no matter how bad it hurt or how bad I thought it hurt, right? Because those emotions fade away, those emotions go away, they're not forever. So were they ever really there to begin with? Yes and no. And I wrote emotional intelligence, right? So in part of that comes emotional intelligence. And to gain emotional intelligence, it either just comes to you through genetics, or it's something you have to learn to accept. And I can say, as a man, with the father figure that I have seen what it means to be a gentleman. But at the same time, those qualities I had to bring forth to myself if I wanted to be the man that I wanted to be. And emotional intelligence, yeah, that comes with prior trauma as well, and healing from that. And once you go through something very traumatic to your ego, it's like nothing will really hurt as much anymore, because you understand that it's only temporary, whatever it is, not unvalidating your emotions or your feelings, because they will always be validated. But you gotta feel what you gotta feel, you gotta feel it. It's just part of the journey. You can't hold it in. You have to allow yourself to flow. You know what I'm saying? Flow down here, and then come back up here. Talk about chakras. I'm gonna be up in my crown chakra. I'm in all chakras at once. I'm flowing through every single one presently, but I'm gonna allow myself to flow through each one, not just up here, right? I'm gonna allow myself to have fun with my root chakra. I'm gonna allow myself to have fun through my sacral and my heart chakra, because it through this dimension, or not this dimension, but this reality that has all these different dimensional perspectives within it, I understood, or I understand, through the ego and the spirit, through that duality, I have to give to my ego and I have to give to my spirit. But when I give to my ego, I'm really giving back to my spirit. Because when I give to my ego, I'm being consciously aware of what I'm doing. Right? So if I'm playing the game, if I'm playing Fortnite with my brother, which I'm not a fan of Fortnite, but I will play it just because we have a console difference and I don't have a PS5 right now. But that's besides the point. When I'm playing Fortnite, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be consciously aware of this experience, and if I see anything within this experience, how can I turn that into a conscious perspective? Like, let's say, what can I correlate? I could correlate this to seeing, who did I see yesterday? I seen Kim Kardashian in Fortnite, right? I seen this ego, and I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, the realms that you have to be in to get to get a skin suit into a game, attached to a title, attached to delusions. You know what you got to do for that. You got to sacrifice people. You got to sacrifice yourself, your morals, and shit like that. And okay, so with this main idea, I put it. Oh shit! Something just fell. But I also put trusting my spirit, and I talked about that already. and consistently working and trusting myself even when my ego didn't understand. This may be the next one, but I'm gonna talk about this one too. Consistently working and trusting myself even when my ego didn't understand. And I have 4 examples for this. The first one being van life. I didn't think van life was going to be for me, but I understood, and I say understood because my spirit understood the freedom that and the clarity within this lifestyle that it would bring to me. And yes, by no doubt has it been a challenge, but I am ready for that challenge because of the conscious clarity that I received through living this reality at such a young age, at 21. You know, I'm going to be traveling, I'm going to be saving up for my business, I'm going to be attending online college, and eventually I want to get into a physical college for psychology to get my master's degree, coinciding with my business. But I'm doing what I can with what I am being presented with, and I'm still working for myself. I'm working on my passions. This may not take off in a year, in 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years, and 5 years, but eventually it will. And by constantly working on myself and consistently working on myself and my businesses, it just comes to me. It just flows to me because I align myself with that frequency. My wife, my girl, my lifestyle, my mindset. What else? Authenticity, abundance, all these things and so much more. These are just titles, right? But I'm just telling you what works for me through what I think I understand, what I think Justin understands. Next one, religion. I never understood religion. I never understood how I could put my accountability and how I never understood how I could place my accountability into someone else's hands. Someone else that I never even seen. Because for me, for Justin, for myself, it's just something I never understood. I never understood going to a physical building, a man-made building with a man-made religious ideology, worshiping a man. I mean, you're calling him Almighty, God Almighty, and you're worshiping Jesus Christ. But all these things are artificial thought constructs. Where's the common sense and where's the logic within that? This shit doesn't make sense to me. I was reading within Exodus, I forget which verse and which chapter, but the tent of meeting or something like that, when Moses goes into the tent and he talks to God, or she talks to God. Fuck, I mean, that's another topic for another day. But Moses goes into the tent of meeting to talk with God, and his servant or whatever, son of Nun, I forget the name. But why? So let me ask you this. Just thinking with common sense, right? Why is nobody else allowed to see God? Why is nobody else allowed to speak with God? Why is no one else allowed to? Why can't everybody come into that tent? Oh, because God was never real in the first place. No wonder. Smoky mirrors. Occultism. Literally. Like, I was talking to my wife about this last night, and it was a journal entry that I did like maybe a week ago now, and I have it in here. Let me find it. It's coming. I said, fog rolls in as the night gets colder, mirroring back to my ego the visual perception of a human/humanoid experimental mindset that influences or creates itself through my understanding of what I, as in I, never needed and what I would never speak. Yeah, and so mirroring back to my ego the visual perception of a human/humanoid experimental mindset, because what is fog? What is fog when I'm already blinded to what I see? And then we're bringing titles and things into the equation. I see nothing with these eyes. The only thing I see is deception. What I see is deception. What I see is Lucifer, but I wouldn't call it that. Literally, the sigil of Lucifer is your eyes' neurological pathways in the visual perception. It's like, just look it up. School. Next one. School. My ego didn't understand why I didn't like going to school, and I would call home sick and I wouldn't really be sick, or I would pretend to be sick and walk home, things like that, ask to go home. I would do all of that. I would do anything not to go into school. When I went to high school, I did 1.5 years in person. Then COVID hit, right? Then the planned what is the word? Academic. It's not academic. Pandemic. Planned pandemic. Planned. Then I went to online school for like another year or two, and then I graduated early. I think it was about a year. Then I graduated early, but it was my spirit rejecting the indoctrination. Excuse me. It was my spirit rejecting the indoctrination being put onto me, and I seen it. But when you're living with a single mom and your mom is telling you, like, no, you need to go to school, you need to numb your emotions, you need to act like a robot. But I don't feel that way. So why am I gonna trust you over my own emotions? And that's where a lot of kids will start developing these, what's the word? Anxiety, depression, things like that. This is when you will create that for yourself and you will claim that. Or you may claim that, you may not claim that, whatever. But you will put it on this title when really it's just you need to heal what you've been going through. You need to listen to yourself. You need to trust yourself. Yeah, you're not going to have good days every single day. What is good? What is bad? When it's all perspective. And lastly, my lifestyle. At first, before I was introduced into the practice of spirituality, I was living like a robot. I really was. And I think back now, it's like, damn, I was living good, but I can't go back to that because I wasn't living good. I was living good within my misery, like I said earlier. But I had this vision of myself that I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to get ripped. I wanted to get shredded. I wanted abs. I wanted my biceps and my triceps to be pumped. Not pumped, but to look good. I wanted to look good. I wanted my skin clear. I want my hair looking good. Everything. I want my fashion to be up. You know what I'm saying? And I got that. And I did that. My smile. You know what I'm saying? I look good. I got tattoos. Nothing that matters. But all these things that just show off the work that I put into myself. I'm 21 years of age, Justin. But spiritually, I have no age. And that's the crazy part that people don't understand. But my lifestyle, yes, I had definitely influence into my lifestyle through the being who's no longer in my life at this moment. But what I what I took from that and created into my own is something that I'm constantly sharpening sharpening my knife, you know? I'm constantly sharpening my mind with that. But my at first my ego didn't understand, but spiritually it felt like it aligned. But nobody in my family was ever doing that. And shit is just wild. It's just wild because the only people I can relate to besides my wife are people on the internet. Like, what? Not even my mom, not even my dad, not even my brother. All love to them, all love to them. Protection to them. But damn. But I'm gonna get into my next topic on my traumas or experiences that I've healed from. So, having nothing growing up with a single mom. Growing up until I was about, I don't know, from the ages of 10 to 11 or maybe 14. I don't know, like around that. Yes and no, because it was on and off. My dad is an electrician, so he was making good money. But my mom was mainly a stay-at-home mom until they got divorced in 2014 or 2016. And I was 14 around that age, around that time. But majority of the time, there was like maybe a good year that we actually had money because my parents were together and we lived in a 2-story house in California, by the way. So, I mean, you already know how that goes with the expensiveness and all that. But I remember days to where we would only eat rice and pinto beans. I remember days to where I would eat only Spanish rice and with the egg on top, or PB&Js, or toast, or things like that, and just and you know, I never really had a father figure around, and this is what the next topic is: no father figure when needed emotionally. Emotionally, my father and his father as well. And I see where it comes from because it still resonates within myself, right? Because that DNA was passed on to me, but it's something that I'm healing daily. Emotionally, it's harder for, I'll say for myself. For myself, it's harder emotionally to connect, or it's harder emotionally to be myself around others because of insecurities. But that's something that I'm healing daily. And even just by talking about that, that's healing. Because I'm not scared to speak about that. I'm not scared to look at myself in the eyes and say, Justin, I love you. Justin, thank you. I need to look right here, but I'm looking at myself. But you don't see myself looking at myself, but I am though. But just how that masculine figure is such an important role in a boy's life or in a man's life growing up, because it's a big it's a big, let me be serious, it's a big confidence booster, and it's a big, yeah, I'll put it that way, it's a big confidence booster into being a man, because when you're surrounded by women and you're surrounded by those submissive mindsets, you're not necessarily getting what you need. You're not getting the guidance that you would need from a father. And so there was a lot of things that I had to figure out for myself, hygiene wise, mentality wise. Oh fuck. yeah, every day. I remember when I was in elementary school, I had to walk home. I had to walk home every single day, and it wasn't until I got into no, it was like fifth grade elementary school, getting into sixth grade, and then seventh grade. In eighth grade, I had moved to the two-story house. But before the two-story house, we lived, me, my mom, and my brother, we had lived in a small country house in the outskirts of the town that we live in. And from the school to my house, it was like a 2 mile walk, a mile and a half walk. And I'm not gonna lie, no, it was probably like 2 miles, because it took me like, it was like a 4 minute, not 4 minute walk. It was like a 40-minute walk, an hour walk. So it was like 1.5, 2 miles, maybe a little more. I don't know. Not gonna look it up. It might be more, but 40-minute walk home. You know, and it was a long stretch of road. I'm walking on this busy ass road. I have to cross the street, this busy ass street, two main streets, mind you. But going through that with my mom and just my appreciation for her, even though I still see the inverted mindset within her, I still have love for her, for the love that she's given to me through her inverted lens. You know, and I can get more into that with my mom and just things like that, but that's personal. And that's not something that I'm going to share exactly yet. But eventually, I'm gonna get into that just so people can relate to what I'm saying, you know? But yeah, one of the more serious topics that I have that I'm open to sharing, because I hold no resentment to anyone. I hold no resentment to either parties. You know, this was when I was maybe, my brother was born. I could have been, I don't know, actually, to be honest, maybe 12, maybe 11, 13, around that age. But I had just gotten home from football practice, and my parents were having an argument, you know what I'm saying? And eventually, hands got dealt onto my mom. And basically, my dad was choking my mom out. And I walked up on that as a little boy, as a little kid. And I did my best to punch my dad off my mom, you know, but I'm a little kid and I'm punching him in the back. What's that gonna do? That's not gonna do nothing. But it broke him out of that unconscious realm that he was in. He was drinking. He was drunk off alcohol. He blacked out. You know, whatever entity took over his vessel, whatever entity he allowed to take over his vessel, was in the driver's seat at that moment. And that trauma that I got from that fight, because they fought before. That wasn't the first time that they fought. And it's so childish looking back on it now, how they were fighting. But, like, you know, people got to go through what they got to go through. Right. That's the only way someone's going to learn. You can't guide someone to the water. You can show this person where the trail ends. No, let me put it like this. You can show someone where this, not to put distance on it, but let's say like a 15-mile trail or 15-mile hike that leads to this beautiful area with this lake and there's mountains, and it just looks something out of your wildest imagination, like Yosemite National Park. Beautiful, right? You can tell them this. You can show them, well, don't show them photos, but you can tell them about this. And I'm saying this because consciousness, truth, I'll say truth cannot be seen. So you can't show them a photo of it, but you can, speaking in terms of the area, right? But you tell them about this, you tell them how beautiful it is, you tell them how, like, you did this hike and how just refreshing it was to have that gratification because it's not something that's instant. It was delayed gratification. And you put in this hard work and you've seen the results of your hard work and it was worth it. And you camped out there and you had a beautiful night with the stars out and all that shit, right? You can't force someone to take the hike for themselves. And I correlate the hike to the ascension of consciousness. It's like hiking a mountain, right? You go higher and higher and higher within your vibration. And I wrote that trauma affected me psychologically and biologically within my DNA. So through this book that I was reading, and I referenced this a bunch of times just because like I can relate to this, but this psychologist was basically having this was having a talk with the client. They're having a conversation in a professional meeting. So like, I'm going to my counselor and I'm going to talk to my counselor to talk about whatever I gotta talk about, right? So they're talking, right? And she had something happen to her, the client. She had something happen to her that made her freeze up in certain instances, like an animal. So we're going into biologically. Within animals, like an impala and a tiger, right? Or an impala and a cheetah, whatever the fuck you're gonna go with. But a survival response for the impala is to freeze up. It's to freeze up when they think that they're about to die, or when they think they're about to transcend, because you don't die, you don't go anywhere. Because spiritually you are this omnipotent being. But I'll never put a title on it, but you know, I'm talking, so obviously I gotta put a fucking title on it. And I realized in that moment that I was punching my dad off my mom, or the moment that I heard the scream, or whatever the case may be. I was out my body at that moment because I was scared. I was fearful of what I was seeing. I had never been into that realm before. That was my first time as a little kid seeing my guides, you know, watching my guides fight, setting the example. And I knew that wasn't right. I knew that wasn't how you, I know. I understand. Right. But to come out of that trauma, what the psychologist said to the client was like, yo, imagine there's a tiger, there's a cheetah coming at you right now, but there's a tree right behind you. Go climb up that tree right now. But like yo, you gotta do this. You have to do this. Now you have to, but there's a tree right there. You can survive. You can climb up that tree and live another day, right? And so when he put that into perspective for the client, she instantly broke down into tears and basically was releasing that stagnation of energy within the body. Because I can correlate to that, because from that fearfulness that I gained from, not the fearfulness, but from that trauma, from that stagnation of energy that I gained from that instance, and others on top of that, beyond that age. But what is age, right? When past, future overlap each other and still exist coincidentally within myself at the same time, within my DNA and mentally. So I realized I had that stagnation of energy within myself. What helped me break that was working out and just getting a really good sweat in, getting a really good workout in, and releasing that energy from my vessel. What I also realized was, I also had an out of body experience with mushrooms. And I was showering, right? And I had taken mushrooms. I hadn't taken too much, but I'd taken a good amount to have maybe some visuals, some good visuals, right? I was in the shower, and I stood down for, or I bent my knees for something. I was squatting in the squatting position, and I went to get up, right? I went to stand up, but the way I went to stand up, I wasn't thinking that there was gonna be something behind my back, but there was. There was the metal spout, and basically what happened was when I went to get up, I hit my spine on that metal pipe, and that shit hurted. That hurted like a like, not the worst thing that I felt. And it's weird because at the same time, yes, it did hurt, but it wasn't this super crazy intense pain. But it's what came after. It's like I hit some nerve within my spine. Well, spinal cord, nervous system. It affected my nervous system in a way that allowed me to release this trauma that was stored up within my body. And there was another key factor too within that. I did feel alone. I felt very alone in that moment. But after the facts, and I was crying. I was like, I wasn't in pain, but I was like in pain. I was releasing pain. It's different. It was different. And this could be a different, actually, I made a topic on this video. Or I made a video on this topic. My bad, I'm getting ahead of my thoughts and shit. But after that instant, after that experience, that out-of-body experience, I was out of my body at that moment. I was just watching Justin go through the cycles of what he was going through, or what he thought he was going through, or what I thought I was going through. But after that experience, I felt lighter. I felt like I was walking on clouds. I was walking around. I didn't feel as anxious as I used to. I felt cool. I felt good. I felt like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just an observation. I'm not Justin. I live within inside Justin, and I guide Justin. But you just, it just, everything clicked. It just clicked. It just clicked. And yeah, so I was talking about this earlier. I never finished it, but I wrote down these little pictures right here that I wrote down. Low vibrational. I put it basically, so there's water, right? I put the low vibrationalness under the water, basically in a spiritual sense, that you are underground, or you're not, your mind is clouded. Basically your mind is clouded with things that don't serve your purpose or purposes. But when we raise our vibration into new perspectives and practicing mindfulness and all that, we come above the grounds. We become above the water, or above the clouds. And above the clouds is clarity. But above the clouds is just more lies in disguise. Lies in the skies. That's not funny. But next main idea is healing is a frequency. Embody it daily through balance. And I talked about this a little bit before too. But having the balance between my spirit and ego, it's very important to me, because I will start feeling depressed. I will start getting anxiety. I will start feeling imbalanced. I won't feel grounded anymore. I won't feel rooted in my truth no more, because I'm not giving time to my spirit. I'm not meditating. I'm not writing down my meditations. I'm not writing down my goals. I'm not making video ideas. I'm not planning for my future. I'm not eating healthy. I'm not doing a week juicing. or I'm not fasting, or I'm not taking care of myself or my family, you know? But when I'm doing these things, I have that balance. And when I have that balance, it's like, okay, now I can go play the game. Okay, now I can go eat some pizza. Now I can go smoke some weed, do some mushrooms, drink some. I'll drink coffee. I ain't gonna lie, but I bought this for my girl, but she gave me the rest. So yeah. And lastly, for our last main idea, for where I am now, what helped my mind transcend those veils of consciousness, those lower veils of consciousness, I wrote down questioning through a polar observation. So through a observation of polarity, seeing both sides of the seeing, it's more than both sides of the perspective, because there's many perspectives, but seeing perspectives that would be considered good and perspectives that would be considered bad, right? Because through every story, and we live in a story too, I mean, the greatest story of all time, right? The Bible. But yeah, story. What is a story? What is the definition of a story, right? My story and the story that I experienced through Justin, there are more than just two sides to every story. There's the hero that believes that they're doing good, and there is the villain that thinks he's doing good, right? But there's two sides to that. In anime too, you know what I'm saying? Muzan, like Demon Slayer, Muzan is just doing what's in his truth. And so is Tanjiro. But Muzan is doing some fucked up shit. Now he's doing what he's doing in his truth. But living righteously, living for myself, living for that frequency of what God will be considered, that's my truth, and I'm gonna live in that. And I'm not clouding myself with illusions or nothing like that, even though sometimes I do. But questioning through a polar observation on what society deems normal through silent consent. And I wrote down some little points right here. Homelessness. Why is it okay that people have to make rows of tents at a park, or people have to make rows of tents on a main street, like Los Angeles, for example? Even I work security, but when I first started out security, I worked at a homeless park and a homeless camp, or a homeless park and homeless camp, a homeless shelter and a homeless park / camp. I've been around that. You know what I'm saying? I will say a lot of those beings are not present within their vessels. They're being controlled through shapeshifters, through astral entities. I see it because I just understand better. At that time, I was still like a little seedling within my growth spiritually. And if I could go back to that now, to that version of Justin now, I would pat that version of Justin on the back and say, you know what, man, you're doing pretty good for yourself right now. You don't got to be so hard on yourself. And I'm projecting because I am very hard on myself, which I'm still learning that balance in between. But let me get back to what I was talking about. Bills. Why is it okay that my mom has to struggle with her bills while this multi-million-dollar parasite gets to live rent-free, or gets to live while millions of people are working for their corporation, their Masonic, their Freemason occultic group? I mean, like, come on, dog. That's why I can't stop in what I'm doing. That's why I gotta keep going. Working a job Nobody wants to work a job. Nobody does. If everybody could pick a superpower, for example, just quotations, a superpower, to work their dream job, or to work a dream job that works for themselves, a dream business, people would do it. But through the society that we live in, that's silently accepted through silent consent, people aren't going to do that because they're lazy. But they're tired. They're tired too. But you have to do it tired. You have to do it right when you get up. You have to make time for it. You got to do it early. An hour a day. Even if it's an hour a day, 30 minutes a day, 2 hours a day, whatever. Slowly but surely, you are making steps. Even if it's baby steps, you're making steps to your goals, to your dreams, that you can turn into your reality. Because who's in control of your reality? When everything outside of you is just titles and scripted out events and beings being controlled by governments of the mind, beings being controlled by interterrestrial beings, entities, parasites. People look up to that. People look up to celebrities that have sex with kids, do things, sexual acts to kids, get fucked in the ass, sell their morals, lie about themselves, give off this fake persona that, oh, I'm living in my lane, I'm the author of my life, but really you're not. I see you for what you are. That's some crazy shit. Fallacies. Next one. Religion. I mean, I put fallacies as the main idea, but religion, sports, names, cars, gas, roads, lights, dispensaries, gyms, I mean, houses. Just, we live upside down. We live invertedly. Physically, we do. Because why am I wearing this? Why am I sitting in the car right now? Why am I like, you know what I'm saying? But within that duality that I'm being observant within, what am I doing to bring clarity to myself and to my spirit and to feed my spirit? Well, I'm journaling right here. I got another book right here, my curriculum. I'm writing about religions right now. I'm learning about Judaism today. I got my sage right here, cleansing the space. You know what I'm saying? What else? I got books. I only got one book in here right now, but the rest are in the bag. You know, and it's religious text, but it's how I choose to read the spell casting or the sorcery within the lyrics being presented to my ego. Right? I'm not taking it literally. I'm seeing what it means for what I take it to be. And that made me think of that example that I thought of earlier, the Ten of Meaning with Moses and God. Like, man, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Come on, y'all. Like, there was this point that was made out through a video that I seen that ain't nothing but the truth. Excuse me, no. When you go into a church, right, and people are being possessed by the Holy Ghost, if a fire alarm goes off, if a kid starts yelling or crying or acting up, you know they're gonna wake up out of that acting out for attention. I mean, literally, you could see it for what it is. Once you know yourself, you know others. You don't know others for what's going through their minds, but through what they choose to say, what they choose to act on, what they choose to eat, what they choose to do with their free time, things like that. You can see what life they're living, because that's just my past self or my past future self. My past future reflection. Past future self reflection. Yeah. Then I wrote down, if I don't do it for myself, who will? And I like to write down little quotes like that in my journal, just to keep myself going, keep myself on the grind for myself, because I have a long way to go. My last thing that I wrote was, it's been a minute. I say, keep in mind, my spirit is eternal, but the ego is 21. I have so much growth! Exclamation point. Yeah. That's really all I got for this video today. And I really hope it helped you in some way. It's a long video today. I'm gonna have to get some Wi-Fi to upload this video. An hour long? Come on, but hey, that's just how we rolling. When I'm talking about consciousness, when I'm talking about the practice of spirituality, I can keep on going. I really can, because it's the love for the game. It's the love for the game. You feel me? But that's all I got. That's all I got for today. I'm about to go walk my dog and shit. People driving by hella slow. I don't think they're looking at me, but I'm just making sure. I'm about to walk my dog and shit. I'm about to just... I got some stuff to do too today. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe if you choose to. Omni Bliss. Peace.